The Elder Scrolls 6 is not going to live up to the hype. Not because it's guaranteed to be a bad game, it could be incredible. In fact, it could be one of Bethesda's best games. But after all this waiting in Todd Howard's people can wait for games mentality, I can almost guarantee the game is not going to be how everybody imagined. Because at this point we're not waiting for an actual video game, we're waiting for the perfect game. Bethesda's had many years to cook up a banger, but now the Elder Scrolls 6 has to compete with GTA 6. That's a mouthful. And every other major RPG that comes before it. But the biggest competition isn't another game, it's our expectations. We've all played Skyrim, some of us have played it a little too much, but we all remember how enormous it felt when we stepped into that world. You escape Helgen, go into that cave, and when you get out you can suddenly go wherever you want. The game points you in the direction of Riverwood, but you don't have to. You can turn around, find some random cave, get your ass kicked by bandits, and somehow end up on the other side of the map. And at that time, that freedom felt insane. Naturally, we want the Elder Scrolls 6 to give us that same feeling, only bigger and better. We want better animations, better combat, better cities, and better quests. We want more choices, and we want the world to react to what we do. Basically, we want Bethesda to recreate the feeling of Skyrim again, but only improving every single part of it. And that's ridiculous expectations for any game, but that is the expectation we have for the Elder Scrolls 6. Another problem is that Skyrim has had over a decade of mods. You can completely overhaul the graphics, the cities, the combat. You can add custom quests, additional parts to the map if you want to. You can add more trees. Modded Skyrim can look completely different from what Bethesda originally released. At this point, if there's probably something you don't like about Skyrim, there's probably a mod out there to change it. But Bethesda isn't just competing with Skyrim anymore. It's also competing with the version of Skyrim that people have been building up for over a decade now through the modding community. And if Bethesda can't outperform Skyrim's modding community when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, the game is going to feel outdated the moment it launches. And I'm not saying that Bethesda needs to add every single mod that a person has created. It's unrealistic. But you have over a decade of people's experience, and you should really look into using that when you're building your game. And I'm sure they are. I hope they are. The massive wait has also given time for fans to create their own version of Skyrim in their head. Some people want more graphic overhauls, other people want bigger maps, some people want in-depth quests, other people want small stuff. It's all over the place. It's all different too. Everybody's been imagining a different version of their perfect game. But no matter what route Bethesda chooses, someone is going to be disappointed. If the map's too small, people are going to complain about how they waited all these years for less content. If the map has no detail and it's too big, they're going to complain about another Starfield again. Bethesda has put themselves in a position where almost every decision they make is going to make their fanbase mad. The Elder Scrolls 6 isn't just competing with modern RPGs, it's also competing with Skyrim's legacy. Bethesda's past success and imaginary versions of the game. Versions of the game that players have spent years in their head building. Even if it sells 1 million copies and makes a shit ton of money, there's still going to be people who are disappointed and underwhelmed from the game. And sure, that happens with plenty of games that are highly anticipated. The more people have to wait for something, the more they imagine what it could be. But I feel like the Elder Scrolls 6 is a pure example of that happening right in front of us. Every year that passes, the game in our head gets bigger. Another thing that worries me is Bethesda's recent track record. With Fallout 76 being an absolute garbage truck of a game, and the procedural generation empty wasteland that Starfield is. Starfield feels outdated and makes exploring space somehow boring, which is surprising because it's space. I mean, it should be infinitely interesting. Like, the one thing they should have gotten right was planets, and making planets interesting to explore instead of vast wastelands that waste my time and half the game is loading screens. But instead of making me feel like I was discovering something, the game just made me feel like I was fast traveling and going through loading screens the entire time. Skyrim came out 10 years before that, and the exploring feels way more natural to me. I can walk around a mountain and find a cave and get sidetracked, and once I get out I can look around and find some more stuff to look at, a statue, and then 2 hours later I forget that I have a main quest line. But that's what Bethesda's good at, and Starfield really broke that flow apart. Instead of connecting the world, it felt like just compartments and loading screens and areas and waiting areas to get to places. And that doesn't exactly fill me with confidence for Elder Scrolls 6. After waiting this long, Bethesda can't just release a game with slightly better graphics and expect us to be impressed. If the Elder Scrolls 6 has stiff characters, poor optimization, people are going to notice immediately. And those problems were easier to ignore when Skyrim came out, but RPGs have gotten a lot better since then. Take Baldur's Gate 3 for example. The game showed us that you can have so many choices, and the choices you make can affect the world and the people around you, and those choices have weight, and you can't go back on them once they're made. And it felt like the world was important, and the things you were doing were valuable. In Baldur's Gate, you can solve a problem in a multitude of different ways. Not one way is the right way, and usually when you do it in a different way, someone has something different to say to you when you accomplish it, like commending you for your creativity and effort. And I think that's something that the Elder Scrolls 6 really needs to have to be successful. Bethesda has always been really good at making you feel like you can go anywhere and do anything, but sometimes none of that really matters. You can kill every leader of a group, kill every dragon, do every quest, and half the guards are going to treat you like some random guy that just walked into town. I mean, you can join organizations that should hate each other and become one of the most important people in the entire world, and then continue walking like nothing happened. But that was back then. Most of us weren't thinking about that because we were busy exploring. But after seeing what RPGs can do in the modern age, my expectations are very high for the Elder Scrolls 6. If one faction can take over a city, another faction should be able to react to that and change the world around them. I don't need my choices to completely rewrite the game either. I just want them to feel like they have weight and they matter. My biggest concern is the world itself. I have no doubt that the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to have amazing graphics, and if it didn't, I would be surprised. But graphics aren't good enough anymore. Will the world feel alive? Will it reward exploration? Will the cities and characters be invested in the things you're doing? Are the quests going to be intriguing? Are you going to find a city full of buildings that you can actually explore, or are half of them just going to be decoration? Are the NPCs going to have routines like in Skyrim? Are they going to be way more in-depth this time and have hobbies and things like that? Are we going to find caves with their own stories, or are they just going to be copy and pastes, like in different spots all over the place? That's the difference between a world that feels large and a world that feels real. I don't just want a prettier Skyrim from Bethesda. I don't think that's good enough. But I want to feel at least as deep as I did with Skyrim as I will with The Elder Scrolls 6. I want Bethesda to keep what the older games made special, while also learning from the RPGs that have come out since then. All that being said, I'm extremely excited for The Elder Scrolls 6. These games were a huge part of my childhood, and Skyrim is one of those games that I wish I could forget just to play again. I remember how it felt to realize that I could go anywhere, walk anywhere, really try whatever quest I wanted or go into whatever cave I wanted, and then get completely distracted from what I was supposed to be doing. But that was the amazing part of the game, was you were so immersed with the world that it didn't matter how much time you wasted because you were having fun. And I really want that feeling to be in The Elder Scrolls 6. I want to be able to walk into the world, ignore the main quest for 40 hours, do all the side stuff, get extremely strong, and then start focusing on stuff. I just want to be able to live in the world, basically. I want to find small quests that turn out to be way bigger than I expected, with deep storylines and impactful writing. I wanted to bring back the feeling that these games gave me when I was a kid. I want to find something in the world that I still think about years later like I do with Skyrim. And maybe Bethesda will pull it off. Maybe the game will release and remind people why they waited so long. But after all these years, The Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't just have to be great. It has to compete with Skyrim, modern RPGs, and over a decade of mods, and every version of the game that fans have made in their head already. I'm worried that The Elder Scrolls 6 will not live up to the hype because I love these games, not because I want it to fail. More than anything, I want Bethesda to prove me wrong.